So, it's just begun. These people that you saw, yeah. Do you remember Crispus Attucks? Do you know who that was? That was the first man killed at the Boston Massacre. Noted as kind of like the beginning of the American Revolution. Yeah. Could that be Pretty? Is it Alex Pretty? Yeah. But is it really the American Revolution in 1776? Or it's more like 1917 in October. Or is it 1918 October and it's freaking St. Petersburg and it's the Bolshevik Revolution? Because that's actually what it's really like. But the thing about it is they're being successful. And they're being successful because people don't understand history. They don't understand how they're played by people. And they're dealing with professionals. That's why you've got Dr. Maria Stefan.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've saved the best for last right here with our final speaker. And, you know, we talked earlier about democratic coups d'etats that, you know, if you have the right circumstances, they seem to work.
Example, my work on Syria, my last assignment in the State Department was working with the Syrian opposition.
I love some of the things that I've seen this past year, like all the frog costumes in Portland. The dinosaur costumes happen in Chicago, too. You know, when the going gets tough, should the tough get silly?
They absolutely should. Joy is resistance, Stephen, and
I am the fox. Who are you? I am me. Who is me? Me is a thief. You bring your poor mother grief. So after the fox, off to the hunt with chains and rocks.
And you've got Rachel Sayer.
My name is Rachel Sayer, and I am the Director of the Emergency Management Department for the City of Minneapolis. My background is in international humanitarian response in conflict zones, in Yemen, Haiti, Syria, Iraq, and Ukraine. What I've seen here is what I've seen there.
These are major operators. I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. There's always been two sides in the CIA. There is the pro-American, constitutional attitude, red, white, and blue American in CIA. And then there's the fucking Bolsheviks, like John Brennan and all these other people, or like Dr. Rachel Stefan. If you look at her resume and it says State Department, when I see State Department, but she understands civil unrest and she writes books about civil unrest, yeah, that's not State Department. That's CIA. And it's the CIA that we have now, which has more of the commies in it than it has the red, white, and blue that I remember under Reagan. Remember, CIA is beholden to the president. Right now, we've got a situation where the deep state has so far taken over the agency, and it's just taken over the government. That's what's happened. It's not just the agency. It's not just CIA. It is the U.S. government has been so taken over. And again, this was the plan. This is what the Carnegie Endowment was doing. And they're trying to bring this to air for the public to recognize and see what it was all about. And everybody was so busy enjoying the wealth that was being created and the new American deals were being made internationally. Nobody was paying attention to the Roost Committee, Senate Committee investigations, which is that they had realized that State Department was owned by the Rockefellers and the Carnegie Endowment.
We are now at the year 1908, which was the year that the Carnegie began operations. And in that year, the trustees, meeting for the first time, raised a specific question, which they discussed throughout the balance of the year in a very learned fashion. And the question is there any means known more effective than war, assuming you wish to alter the life of an entire people? And they conclude that no more effective means than war to that end is known to humanity. So then in 1909 they raised the second question and discussed it, namely, how do we involve the United States in a war? Well, I doubt at that time if there was any subject more removed from the thinking of most of the people of this country than its involvement in a war. There were intermittent shows in the Balkans, but I doubt very much if many people even knew where the Balkans was. Then finally, they answer that question as follows. We must control the State Department.
And they were leading it wherever they wanted it to go, which is not in our best interest and has not been in our best interest, because it's all been about them taking control. And they do it in benign, that what seemingly are benign ways. Look at this woman. She is an evil. I mean, you want evil? That's evil incarnate right there.
It is love in action. It's about being human in the face of inhumanity.
So just putting people out to be pummeled is a completely kind of immoral situation. The best and most effective nonviolent struggles involve profound elements of training, discipline, planning, in the same way that armed resistance does. And that's
There, beautiful smile, attractive woman, very friendly, laughing, sociable. There she is with Stephen Colbert. These people know how to play the psychology game. That's why I brought up my background, where I understood my own background, which was related to pseudo operations, on how to recruit operators for my teams to go into, quote, Indian country and act like Indians and bring back our prisoners or do other things that we needed to do. That's how that runs. That's what pseudo operations. You want a really good book on it or a good read? Go read the stuff by the Rhodesians and former Salu scouts. That's what they used to do. That's who we learned from. Some of my instructors were former Rhodesians. And guess what? The United States is being treated by this cabal, by the City of London, and all the other operators in the same way that Rhodesia was treated. Think about that. Here was a colony and became very successful and brought wealth and success and riches to the City of London, the Bank of England, and then once they were done with them, they basically disowned them and wouldn't even assist them. And so the roadies were left to their own devices to just to keep their farmers from being murdered by Mugabe and all these commies and the chaos that ensued. And that's what they're doing right now in the United States. They've achieved everything that they've needed to get out of us. They've used us as their soldiers. They've raped our resources and made the profit off those resources. And now they're done with us. They don't live here. They don't need to live anywhere. They live wherever they desire to live because they have such wealth. And now that they're done with us, they're letting us reset. Or actually, they're not letting us reset. They are causing the reset. And it's easier to control people under a socialist or communist system than it is ever going to be under a democratic republic. We had a democratic republic. They own our leadership right now. They have bought. Every one of them has sold their souls. Maybe Tom Massey has not. Maybe. Ron Paul, I thought he had it. Who knows? They say he's already been bought off by people in Venezuela. Who knows? There's all this stuff that's being floated around. But the whole idea, they're using idiots. They're relying on your good nature, the idea of what you think is right and wrong. But think about it. If you're going against ICE, who their specific job is to go and get people who are not supposed to be here, who are not legally in this United States, do not have rights under our Constitution. They do not have rights under our Constitution. And you need to be clear about that. They are not American citizens. And people say, oh, well, it's written for all people. No, it's not. If that was the case, we wouldn't have any borders. We have borders. But what they've done, and when I say they, you can't even see it's the Democrats because the Republicans members of the Republican Party have been part of this too, is they've allowed this invasion to occur, and that was the second step. We are now in the third and fourth step, where they are now running the rest of the operation. They're running the color revolution is now being run, and it's being run in Minnesota, and it's being assisted by the leadership, the administration in the state of Minnesota. And they're relying on the lax attitude of the Minnesotan citizens to not take back their government from these usurpers. These are insurrectionists, and they're running the insurrection by using their law enforcement to stand back. They are putting up a inflammatory dialogue to incite people to do illegal activities.
Was operating outside of the purview of Governor Walz.
So it's interesting, the timing, and it was before he ran as the vice president, and so she was completely almost tied at the hip with Governor Walz at that time in history.
I think it's important for people to understand that in virtually every state in the country, the lieutenant governor is essentially chosen by the governor. And so lieutenant governors typically do not operate outside of the purview of the governor. It's kind of their job to, play QB2, if you will, to the governor. So would it be clear to state that the lieutenant governor's comments trying to railroad whistleblowers, trying to demean whistleblowers and discourage whistleblowers was at the directive of Governor Walz?
You can definitely assume that.
That are counter to their own livelihood, that are counter to their fellow citizens, that are counter to the ideals that they think they're coming in. If you show up at a point where ICE is actually going in to arrest and capture illegals in this country, who a lot of them have turned out to be rapists and criminals from other countries, and that's why they were sent here. This is the same crap that happened when frickin' Fidel Castro emptied his prisons and sent them and made it look like, oh, they were refugees from Cuba, political refugees. They weren't political refugees. They were criminals. And they got quickly to it in Florida. People are so easily played right now, and this is going to get even worse. The enemies of the United States are winning. They are winning because they are making you think that the people you should be protecting are the demonstrators who are showing up at these ICE events where they're trying to clean out all these illegals who were brought in order to destroy the country. They're brought in to economically destroy us. They were brought in to culturally destroy us. And they were brought in order to create chaos. The chaos is ramping up. The only ones who want this chaos to occur are the operators like Waltz and the people who placed Waltz. This is how it goes. This is the same damn thing that happened when the Rothschilds sent Lenin back to Russia. They sent him in to do his duty and do his job. He was an agent of the Rothschilds, and he enabled the Bolsheviks to take over, who initially everybody ignored because it's such a small group. This is the warning about small groups. Often, the ones who are the smallest group but are the most ferocious are the ones who win. Perfect example, every part in history. Colonials, yes, us. We were a smaller group than the Tories, and the Tories ignored us until finally they couldn't ignore us anymore. But by that time, the war was full on. And by the grace of God, we got enough allies to assist us directly, like France, in order to beat the British. Jump to Southeast Asia. When I was in Southeast Asia and Vietnam, the Khmer Rouge, totally ignored by Prince Sihanouk. They're just a bunch of peasants. Just a bunch of peasants. Yeah. Well, soon enough, those peasants under Pol Pot take over. And guess what? The very people who were helping them Just like with the Ayatollah back in Iran. Yeah, those idiots, the intellectuals who thought that, oh, well, socialism can be such a great thing. It was actually the left. It was the leftists in Iran who assisted in bringing back the Ayatollah. Guess who were the first ones to go? The leftists. Those are the ones who were executed. Those are the ones who were thrown in prison. What happened with Cambodia? Same exact thing. The very people who aided the intrusion and the invasion of the enemy, aka Khmer Rouge, they were the first to go. So all the teachers, all the professors, every one of them got rounded up and sent to the killing fields. Okay? Watch that movie I was in playing the Marine, one of the Marines. Go watch that movie again. If it doesn't make you cry, it should. Because that shows you how people can get behind something and feel so clear that they need to help and be part of this, and then they end up being turned into ground meat by the very ones that they actually helped. These people succeed. All the Waltz, all the perverts like Waltz. We know what, remember, what they do is they make you more amenable to perversions and ideas counter, because if it's a perversion, then it's counter to the regular and the line of where the country is. That's how they get in, and they make it easier. And then they do with drugs. So they do the drugs where it's like, oh, well, you can do this drug, and then you can do this drug, and then you can do this drug. So it becomes more and more passive. But while that passivity is occurring, the operators who are running these different types of psychological operations. And did you ever wonder how the drugs really start ramping up in the United States? Everybody says the CIA. Well, CIA, MI6, Bank of England. Do you know there's an actual tie? We'll talk about it. There's actually a book called Dope Inc. Yeah, Dope Inc. And that one talks about how all the royals in the UK benefited and profited by doing a drug war against us back in the 60s, starting in the 60s, and ramping it up through the 70s, 80s, 90s, and using individuals in MI6 and in CIA in order to achieve that goal. These are evil people. And this Dr. Maria Stephan and this Rachel Sayer, you see them incarnate. They come off as though they're helping you and they're being good to you. But they write books like about civil resistance and civil unrest and how that's a good thing to make changes occur. What they're talking about is creating chaos. Because they know once you create chaos and it gets enough momentum and it's a snowball, there is no way to stop it.
Strategic framework for analyzing regimes, where their power comes from, and what it means to erode or, in some cases, fundamentally dismantle those pillars of support, leading to, in some cases, a change of regime.
And this is the disgusting thing about it. In this country, this is where Big Brother gets to play. This is 1984. And this is the reason that you should be aware of, is that's when NSA and CIA and FBI and DHS, that's when they get to show the other side of their face. Remember, it's just like a human being. We have two faces. There's the face we have inside. There's the face that we show the outside world. We also have another face, which is the good face. And then there's the evil face. It's kind of like I used to talk about my rest of the world face and then my war face. You're never supposed to see my war face in a peaceful situation. That's why I never show that face. The people who see that face are the people who don't want to see that face. And it only happens in war. You guys who've been in combat, you know what I'm talking about. This is the face we're talking about right now with these people who are manipulating this color revolution. They're doing the same thing. The chickens have come to roost. They've come back to roost. All this crap the deep state's been doing overseas, they've been doing over in Egypt and Libya and Syria. Wait a minute. Wasn't Rachel Sayer just talking about that? Yeah. They've come back and now they're doing it here. Hey, they need a job, right? And they're getting employed. Open Society, George Soros, Rothschilds, Club of Rome. Their objective is the destruction of the United States. And they're relying on the ignorance and the compliance and the willingness of a certain psychology to become a sacrificial lamb. Don't be a sacrificial lamb. Understand what it means to be a sacrificial lamb. Alex Pretty, he was a sacrificial lamb. He went there and he was guided by a guidance which was basically getting him set up to get popped.
The best and most effective nonviolent struggles involve profound elements of training, discipline, planning, in the same way that armed resistance does.
That's what these people are all about. They don't care about you. They care about using you as an example because they know the more Pretti'S that get killed, it'll be just like addicts. So when Christmas addicts got killed, that started infuriating people in Boston. That leads to revolution. And that's what these people are pushing for. They're pushing out for a full-on revolution. Change has to come in this country. But there are ways to do it. And if you have this type of revolution being led by a group of people, and this is going to be the interesting thing. Remember what happened in Nicaragua. Nobody knew who Daniel Ortega was. I fucking didn't even know who he was. And then suddenly he becomes the leader of Nicaragua. All the other guys who were kind of like leading the operations and leading all the battles and everything against Somoza, assassinated, disappeared. Boom, and there's Ortega. And that's how they play this game. This is how these operators play these games. These commies. These socialistas. And they're playing the game in Minnesota. And if you play the game with him, because you think you're helping people, in reality, your only objective is to be another pawn in their game. Their objective of using you, and your only purpose to them, is to be another sacrificial lamb. You're another piece of wood to throw on the fire. Don't be another piece of wood to throw on the fire. It'll burn out on its own quietly if you just stay out of it and not get involved in something like this. It doesn't behoove you. It's not going to benefit you. It's not going to benefit your family, especially if they lose you. And you're not helping your fellow citizens. And what you are doing is you're assisting people who are illegally here. That's simple. It's simple. I'm a direct descendant of an immigrant to this country. Legally. There's a way to come into a country. When you do it that way, that's what happens is that the government and the citizenship comes about and you're integrated into the country, and we're talking about culture. When you bring a bunch of people in illegally, you destroy the culture. You destroy the culture, you ramp up the chaos. That's what they're doing. That's why they did this. That's why they've been trying to dilute whatever identity we have had as Americans. And they've been doing it clearly since the 1930s in our education system. So we don't even really know who we were as Americans before that. Unless you had a good talk with your grandparents. And I'm talking about grandparents who were born like in the 19-teens and the 1920s. Be safe. Don't be a sacrificial lamb. If you back off, and we back off in numbers, protect your home, understand castle principle, protect your home, protect your life, don't get drawn and distracted and brought up into these stupid demonstrations under Ice Watch and all these other these are operators. They are running you. They are running you against your own interests. Look at who these people are. Who do they report to? They report to George Soros. They report to all the people who are trying to destroy the United States. They report to the left. They report to the commies. The commies' objective has been to create chaos, destroy any connection to the past. That's why they were taking down statues and all this kind of crap. Same thing they did back in Russia when they started pulling down all the churches and burning all the churches and blowing up the churches. Come on. A little history helps. Like I keep on telling people, There is nothing new in history. There is absolutely nothing new. You just need to look at it. It's right there. It will guide you. I will try to bring more of that history up for you. Because we don't want to be these people. Yeah, don't want to be a boat people. I don't want to have to jump on a boat to go to some other country. And what country are you going to go to? Everybody comes to this country, or they used to. And I came here for a reason. Think about this. This would really make you think. If we get what they got in the Soviet Union right after they murdered the Tsar, and the Bolsheviks started killing like crazy in a manner that it was unbelievable, where they'd go from village. Trotsky's big thing was the kill train. So he would go out on the train, he would go to a village, and every village he would say, are you with the Tsar or are you with the Bolsheviks? And if they said we were still white and with the Tsar, they leveled that village. They killed everybody in that village. Do you want to deal with that? I prefer not to. I know what I'm going to do. If it gets to that point, I've thrown those kind of blows before. So, this is my country. I hope you think about it in this way too, which is it's your country. Don't let them try to steal it from you. And they're going to try to steal it from you by these, quote, benign things like the froggy and the fox. And you're distracted by it doesn't seem that bad. When in reality, this is where they're pushing everybody towards, to this. Let's not have that happen. They're winning. I hope we can stop them. Have a good evening.